I didn't really like Shogun. On a technical level, it's basically perfect. Looks great. The cast is great. The moments all work. The setup of this old world looks fantastic and basically convincing. But it kind of had the problem I thought it would, which is it has the same problem Game of Thrones has, which is that it desperately wants to convince its audience that it has some historical value in portraying an approximation of a previous era of history. Not literally, but something derived from it. But then it constantly undermines itself by throwing in moments of violence even greater than what would have made sense at the time. It's like they want to have the idea of historical credibility, but then they're like, people won't keep watching unless there's a terribly violent thing to talk about that happened this week. And maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe it is true. Maybe that is how TV audiences respond. But that's just kind of a dark one, bro. No, I'm not a scholar. I'm not going to draw out a laundry list and point at a bunch of items and say, well, it was inaccurate in this way, and it was inaccurate in this way. That's not really what I want to do. That's not really what I do. There's plenty of people talking right now about Shogun's comparative accuracy. You can find many reputable sources with a Google. And it's not like I disbelieve the violence. Everything that happened in that episode has roots in real history, or actually happened. But it's my understanding that while these moments of cruelty occurred, and there's a culture of doing these things, it wasn't standardized policy. And there's a big difference between culture and top-down policy. It's the difference between European noblemen being a little rapey with their subjects and a prima nocta in Braveheart. And I understand it's based on a book and they have to follow the book more or less, and people still like the book despite its inaccuracies, so maybe I should think about leaning into inaccuracy a little more. But it's just kind of a bummer. If we're looking at a show that's claiming to be historical, then we are actually learning a little history. But if we're actually watching a show that claims to be historical but actually isn't, and is actually creating its own worse stylized versions of violence, then we're just kind of watching someone's sick fantasy. And yeah, the point is, to make you think, or to show, it's not so far from real life as you might think, which is true. But it's like, do I want to spend my Saturday night watching people get tortured because a showrunner somewhere thinks it'll make more 18 to 40-year-olds watch it? I don't know that I do. But that said, I might keep watching. This also has that thing that Game of Thrones had, where it undermines itself with its edginess, and look how well that worked out for Game of Thrones. But everything else about it, a lot of the other things about it, are so interesting and so engaging, I have to keep watching anyway.